Well, Jim, I wanted to ask you about, we've talked about other aspects of whisky, how to taste whisky. I wanted to ask you how to enjoy Bruichladdich whisky. So here we are in Warehouse 10, with a bottle of the 15-year-old, which I shall...
Thank you very much.
Because it seems to me that there's a lot of people are confused about how to enjoy whisky. In reality, it's very, very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of folks say you should put ice in it, or you shouldn't put ice in it, or you shouldn't put water, or should you put Coca-Cola in it, which I don't recommend. Just like what you've done there, it's perfect in a 15-year-old. It's now 5 o'clock. It's the perfect time for a 15-year-old, you know? But any time is a perfect time for a 15-year-old. Yeah. With our line-up of the 10, the 15, the 20, early evening, coming home from work, exhausted, tired, faced the traffic, it's been a tough day, nobody loves me or appreciates me. You know that feeling comes quite often. Your wife doesn't.
I didn't get that feeling.
Your wife doesn't understand.
Oh, right, okay.
That sort of gig. I'll have a 10-year-old with ice and lots of water. Yeah. Mix it well.
Refreshing.
Refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Japanese style.
Aperitif style.
It's like pat yourself in the back.
Yeah.
Hey Jim, you're a good guy.
So something you can actually drink quite easily. You know.
It's a long drink.
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I would do that early evening with a 10-year-old. Well, I know you particularly like the 15-year-old.
Yeah, I must say.
I mean, when would you drink the 15-year-old?
Well, to me, this is my euphemism would be a Sunday afternoon job. You know, sitting in an armchair on a Sunday afternoon when you're pretty laid back, feeling good, in an armchair, pissing down with rain outside, and you don't really care. That's what that means to me. It's a very sort of relaxing, contemplative, reflective sort of dram.
And pretty well. It's one of these drams that you can drink virtually any time.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's a good buddy dram when you're with your buddies, you know?
Yeah.
And even, I don't mean buddies as in your male friends, but also your female friends as well. It's just one of these easy ones. It's robust, you can feel the power in there. Yeah. It's like a real islander. It's like the guys who work out there. Yeah. They're quiet, they're generous, big hearts, a lot of warmth. Yeah. I mean, am I talking about the guys, am I talking about the whiskey? Well, I'm talking about both, because this is a mirror image of the people who made it. Yeah. This is like a mirror, you know, it's really classic Islay. Gentle, you know, not forceful, not upfront, not boastful. It's there, it comes in slowly, it takes you over, it's like Islay itself. Yeah.
What about the 20-year-old? Well, how would you drink that? I mean, that's very much, I see that as a digestif, as a sort of really sort of sophisticated.
Yeah, it's funny, it's a kind of dreamy whiskey. I remember when we were putting it together, this may sound strange to you, you know, or coming from me. I was always a great admirer of Lady Diana. I thought she was a classic beauty and she was a much maligned and misunderstood woman. And certainly she was a good mother, there's no question about that. And she was just kind of like special in my eyes. She was a style and she was just elegant. So the 20-year-old was that, for me, was that elegance. And elegance in the 20-year-old, it's gentle, you treat it with care, you respect, you know, it's taken 20 years to get there. So for me, it's a late night dram, the last peat on the fire.
Hardly any water, if any.
If any.
Yeah.
Ali Bain from Shetland playing fiddle on the stereo system, the lights are out, my wife's gone to bed. Or if I'm here at Bruichladdich, there's a gale force 10 hammering on the window and the storms are outside and the electricity's cut off and the ferry's not sailing and there's no Logan air. Yeah. Who gives a shit? Yeah. I mean, I've got a 20-year-old, I've got a fire.
Well, wouldn't we all feel the same, 20-year-old?
It's that kind of, wow, it's a dreamy kind of whiskey. Yeah. Just leave me alone with the whiskey, I don't need anybody else, don't talk to me. So it's one of these dreamy kind of whiskies. And it's a mood thing as well, you know, you can... Whiskey is a fantastic, I'm not just talking about Bruichladdich, but it will lift you, The combination of good music and good whiskey, it can lift you to a higher level. It's just fantastic. If you go to a wedding and a party here in Islay, and you see these people, you know, they come in and they're tired, a couple of good drams, and the fiddle starts playing, and the accordion's going, and their faces get red,
very evocative.
Start throwing each other about, and that's just the women. You know, you get a real full-blown kill, you know. it's just when
But it transports. That's the thing. Is, I mean, wherever you are in the world, I've drunk this stuff out in the jungle in Africa, and it just grabs you. It's having the right whiskey. You know, when the sun goes down and you're out there in the bush in the middle of nowhere, and you know the nearest town is 200 miles away, and you've got a 20-year-old, and you know the fires are burning down. It's a mood thing, and I'm convinced of this.
Well, you're the only other guy I've heard saying this. I travel a lot, as you know. In my previous job, I've travelled everywhere, and I had a set rule, you know. I always carried a few miniatures in my bag because it costs so much from a hotel bar, a mini bar, and it's generally junk that's in there, you know. So I always had miniatures in my bag. So my game plan was always to try and get a room with a veranda, if it was in a warm country, and just come off your flight, quick shower, and then just put on your dressing gown, sit outside with a dram. And you know, if you're on the road for 3 weeks, you come at the end of 3 weeks, this will sustain you because it reminds you of home. You take the whiskey and your thoughts go back to Scotland, your thoughts go back to your family, they go back to Islay. It really is, it's an instant recall.
But I find it very much like we were talking about the different whiskies for different times. If you take the wine sort of attitude, which is, people know that Chateau Laffitte's a very, very fine wine, but you're not going to drink it every day. You can't. There's a time and a place for that. You have to be in the right mood, you have to have the right company. And just as the second wine of Chateau Laffitte, Carrois de Lafitte, you'd perhaps have more often. Or their very basic, general Pauillac, you'd have pretty much every day. It's scaling it. Not every day is a Chateau Laffitte day. Not every day is a 20-year-old Bruichladdich day.
No, 20 euros is pretty special, and I mean, it is expensive, and not everybody can afford to drink it every day, but it's certainly well worth waiting on.
This is it.
You know, like you said something earlier, there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
Your mother always said that to you, there's a time and a place.
Well, tell me about the water that you use with this.
Well, the water we have in the jug here is from our own spring. It's really beautiful water, it's crystal clear, which is quite unusual for Islay because of the amount of peat we have here. The water is generally very peaty. But we've got this water from a spring behind the small village of Port Charlotte, and the spring is called Octomore Spring, and it's absolutely superb. And we will be bottling that water here at the distillery. So I guess by next year you'll be able to buy water, crystal clear Islay water.
The same water we use to dilute it down with?
To reduce the whiskey, but to answer your question, I mean, if you're obviously overseas, it's not always easy to get Islay water. It's best to use a well-known producer of still water, and it's always still water we use. And Highland Spring and some of these waters are quite readily available throughout the world.
But not the gassy.
Not the gassy. It's absolutely crucial not to use gassy water.
Tap water?
Oh, that's the worst. I mean, that's like. Oh, that's sort of chlorine. It's just, you just watch it, just scums, you know. Scum's a bad word, but it just goes really horrible. And a kind of froth comes on top, and it's just chlorine. And then that's probably the worst thing you can do. You know, is put tap water in a 20-year-old or a 15-year-old. I mean, it's like, wow, it's like throwing your child in the fire. You know, it's like, why do it? It's a bit. We would never. I've seen it done. It's like, it was 15 years to make it. It's cost you $10 a shot, and you go and put tap water. It just destroyed all the heritage.
But does that apply also to ice? That ice, if you're going to make ice, you should try and make ice, I suppose, with spring water.
If you're a real aficionado and you want to go into that, definitely. It's worth doing it. So water is important, the addition of water. So try at all times to use a well-known household name